Last week I kind of took you up to 1803, and that's when the United States took over Louisiana. But my Creole relatives had already been pretty well established by that time, and they had seen the French, Spanish, and French come back into and take control of Louisiana. They hadn't. Neither the French nor the Spanish were very good at controlling it because it's a huge, when you start thinking about how large the Louisiana territory was, it went all the way up to Canada with 49th parallel. So their idea about the Americans taking over was probably, oh, these guys won't be able to handle it. But what happened was something completely different, and the United States really took control of Louisiana. The first governor was William Claiborne, and one of the first decisions he had to make was about the colored militia. During French and Spanish time, blacks were allowed to serve in the militia, and many slaves were served in the militia, and they used that as a way out of slavery. So they did their service, and once their service was completed, they were freed. So Claiborne was basically presented with the dilemma when he first took over, and that is that the white inhabitants of Louisiana that were coming in after the purchase were very alarmed to see free blacks armed, drilling, competent with their weapons, confident. They weren't used to that, so they petitioned him to disband the militia, which after a year he did. But then several years later, we have the War of 1812, right? So he had to reconstitute the militias, and they served as part of the fighting force that defeated the British. Four of my uncles served in the Battalion of Free People of Color during the War of 1812. One was a band member, and three served in the black militia. I also had two white relatives who served in the white militia. And so obviously I think most people know that the British were defeated, only 20 casualties on the United States side, probably about 2,000 casualties on the British side. Afterwards, Andrew Jackson, who was commanding the forces, became a national hero and went on to become president. He was very distrustful of the French Creoles that were there, which are my relatives, and rightly so, because previous to him coming down and taking control of Louisiana and instituting military law there, the French were saying, well, maybe we need to capitulate because the British are so well refined at warfare that maybe the Americans can't help them. But he gathered together a fighting force. He had whites, blacks, Choctaw. He had Jean Lafitte, the pirate, as part of the fighting force. Right. He promised him amnesty if he fought and served, and he did fight and serve. My relatives who served were some of the earliest people to receive a military pension, and two of the people who raised battalions of free men of color in the War of 1812 were the first field officers ever appointed in the U.S. Army, which, like I say, most people don't know about.